The New Orleans Saints defense was dominant this Sunday, putting Tommy DeVito pretty much in a body bag along with the Giants offense. And Derek Carr finally looked really good. Yeah, that happened this Sunday. Let's talk about it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rosvogan. As always, we're brought to you by Scott Fickner, injury lawyers. You've been injured in any kind of accident, car, truck, 18-wheeler, or hurt offshore. Scott Fickner handles it all. You give him a call at 504-500-1111 for a free consultation. They'll always fight for the win. So last week, the Saints played an inferior opponent in the Panthers. And although they won, and although the box score looked pretty damn good if you just looked at it and didn't watch the actual game, I was underwhelmed. I was frustrated with the way they played. This week, this Sunday, they play another inferior opponent, the Giants. And even though the box score actually looked kind of similar last week, completely different game. The Saints outright kicked the Giants' ass for all 60 minutes. And honestly, the 6 points that the Giants had were gifted off penalties. A running into the punter, if the Saints don't do that, they continue, you take 3 points off. And then Alontae Taylor got flagged for actually tackling someone, which that's kind of telling you where the state of the NFL is. But other than that, the Saints played flawless football today. They played complimentary football today. And you can argue this was one of their best wins of the year in terms of how they played. I still think the Colts wins their best win because of the quality of the opponent. But in terms of just playing sound football, feeding off your defense and then kind of rewarding them with scores in the red zone, that's what the Saints did today. And look, we can get into frustrations and all that maybe another time, but I got to be fair. Today's a day where we got to be positive about the Saints, and we got to talk about all the good that they did today. And a lot of it starts with Derek Carr, and I'll get into the defense in just a second, but I want to start off with the quarterback because I've been highly critical of Derek Carr this season. I don't think it's unfair. I think a lot of it is warranted, specifically because he is a veteran and also the Saints paid him a lot of money. You expect him to produce at a high level. But how about today, right? No Chris Olave, no Ryan Ramczyk. And he goes out, completes passes to 10 different receivers, has 3 touchdown passes. He didn't even have a near interception today. I believe he only had 5 incompletions, no near interceptions. The only mistake you could say he made was the intentional grounding when he's getting rushed. And sure, you'd like to get that ball to the line of scrimmage, but that's the one bad play he made today. And even then, it's more of a, damn, you wish it didn't happen than a catastrophic mistake. So I thought Derek Carr played really, really clean football today. He looked like the quarterback the Saints paid for. And now, does that bring the next question? Can he sustain that? Can he do this on a consistent basis? I don't know. We'll find out on Thursday when the Saints play the Rams. And look, maybe all this unravels. And when we get to that moment, we'll talk about it. But for now, I thought Derek Carr looked really good today. And I would love to see if he can find a way to kind of build off this performance when Olave's back in the lineup, when Ramczyk's back in the lineup. You have a little bit more talent around you. And then maybe you don't look like the most frustrating team in the NFL anymore. So I got to give credit to Derek Carr. Body language is good. Leadership was good today. And just the overall ability to make plays down the field. And I think a lot of it comes from the Saints actually getting the play action pass game going. They haven't done that a lot this year. They certainly did that today. I'd like to see more of that for the Saints and for Derek Carr because he made some really good throws off of it. So I was very, very pleased with the way Derek Carr played today. I have no negative notes. I would be shocked if when I rewatch this game, there's anything that pops up where I'm like, man, didn't like that. Like, I think Derek played well. And now I just want to see him if he can do it again. And if he can't do it against the Rams, you need him to at least do it against the Bucs and the Falcons. Because I think the path to the playoffs for the Saints is very clear. You would like them to beat the Rams next Thursday, but it's the 2 games after that. And I'll talk about that before I get into the fan comments. So gave credit to Derek Carr because, man, the guy does deserve it. He's been ripped this year. I've been towards the front of the line in terms of ripping him when he doesn't play well, when he says the wrong things. Hopefully he says the right things after a really, really good performance because Derek deserves it. He was great today, and I give him his props. Now, I said it was complimentary. It certainly was. It's all about being able to put together complete performance. And I think the Saints defense has been one of the reasons why they've struggled this season. The offense has been a problem, no doubt about it. But you think about the Vikings game. You think about even last week against the Panthers, they gave up 200 rush yards. That obviously isn't what you want. You think about the Lions game, giving up 30+. The Saints defense hasn't looked elite. Today, they were otherworldly. What they were able to do, just take the Giants run game completely out of it. completely out of it. Saquon Barkley didn't even have 20 rushing yards. So to have your run defense play that well and make the Giants one-dimensional, and then that means you have all the pressure on Tommy DeVito, who I believe has only started like 5 games in his career so far. And yes, he was riding off a high. He did have a comeback win over the Packers, but he has not faced, I'd say, a defensive mind as talented as Dennis Allen. Now, Dennis Allen, again, deficient head coach, sure. Really good defensive mastermind. Got to give him credit for that. That's what he does. And I think the one thing that Dennis Allen's done back-to-back weeks now that I think is paying dividends is we know the defensive line, specifically the edge rushers, aren't great. Cam's getting older. Peyton Turner obviously has been out for the majority of this season. We know that Carl Granderson's taking a step up, but who's been that guy across from him? He hasn't really had that. The Saints have been blitzing more, and it's been paying off. Demario Davis, I thought he was arguably the best player on the football field today. Brian Brzee was excellent. And Tano Passanio, I mean, what was that performance from him? Did anyone have Tano Passanio going out there and recording 2.5 sacks the way he did? He was outstanding. Brzee had 2 sacks. Carl Granderson was big time for them. Again, I argue that Demario Davis was the best player on the football field with the way he played. Just a great performance from the Saints. Tommy DeVito had less than 100 passing yards before garbage time. Because you might go back, you look at the stats, you say, all right, he finished with 178. Nonsense. He had less than 100 before the garbage time drive came into effect. So you hold the Giants to 6 points. Those 6 points were gifted off questionable to sloppy penalties. I think you deserve a bow. So what this Saints defense did today is something we haven't seen in a couple weeks. It's good to see that type of performance. Now, again, it's similar to Derek Carr, right? Can you replicate it? Can you be consistent? We're going to have to wait and see. But I got to be here today on the mic commending them for the job they've done because that was outstanding. Nonstop pressure on DeVito. When he had time, the secondary was holding up. Adebo was great. Isaac Yiadom was great. I thought Alontae Taylor brought the wood today. So the Saints defensively, collective unit, outstanding. And this is without their best defensive players. So for them, it's just an A-plus performance. I loved what I saw. And honestly, today's game made me wonder, like, how many more years does Demario Davis have in the tank? Because this dude just absolutely plays with a level of energy and just will that it's tough to match. And the Giants were incapable of doing so. So big performance for the Saints. And look, I know the Giants have deficiencies in the offensive line, but the Giants' skill players aren't bad. We know what Saquon brings to the table. We know what Darren Waller could bring to the table. Darius Slade and Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, are they elite? Absolutely not. Are they nice speed guys? For sure. So, again, great performance. Got to tip my cap to the New Orleans Saints defense. That was outstanding. And again, kind of similar to Derek Carr, it's hard to have bad notes about this defense. Maybe the Saints offense, you could say in the first half, for them to only have 7 and look stale, okay, that could be a knock. Defense was great. 6 points in the first half given up, 0 in the second half. I can't say anything bad about that performance. So, love what I saw from them. Now, the main question, can the Saints sustain this level of play? Look, truthfully, I have doubts that they go into LA on Thursday night and win, only because I think the Rams are playing really good football right now, and I think the Rams will have the advantage in the quarterback spot and the coach spot. Now, also have to worry about the defense, right? Because Aaron Donald could wreck a game plan. He's a little banged up right now, so maybe we'll see about his status. But the truth of the matter is that game doesn't matter for the Saints' playoff hopes. The Saints, in reality, can lose that game on Thursday night to the Rams. And if they take care of business against the Bucs in Tampa and the Falcons at home, they will win the division. That's how it goes. So we shall see what happens, but that's the truth of the matter. Now, what I will say, and I think this is a fair thing to say about the Saints, if you want them to show you something, like you want them to make you actually believe they can pull off an upset on Wild Card Weekend, then they got to beat the Rams. Because if they beat the Rams, then all of a sudden you're going, okay, that's a playoff caliber opponent. And now you're getting confidence into those Falcons and Bucs games. And if the Saints go 10-7, it would be odd because I've been very critical of them and they haven't looked great. But that would actually hit the record mark that a lot of people predicted before the year started. And you at least would have some confidence. But in the grand scheme of, does next Thursday's game matter for them to make the playoffs? The truth is the last 2 games matter. The game against the Rams might be a litmus test and a very good one, right? Because if they could beat the Rams on the road, then who knows? Maybe they could shock someone at home in the wild card weekend round. It's possible. Crazier things have happened. So we'll see, but that's the truth. You win your last 2 games, you're in the playoffs. And if you don't, We shall see. But I think that Bucs game is going to be the one that decides it, because I do think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons to end the season. I feel very good about that. And the Rams game, I kind of feel like the Saints will lose. So that puts them in 8-8. And it all comes down to that Bucs game, because the Bucs play the Panthers to end the season. And you'd imagine they probably win that one. And now you could say, Chris, the Panthers just beat the Falcons. I know, but Desmond Ritter is terrible. Baker Mayfield's much better. I would expect him to get the job done. So it's going to come down to that Bucs game. And it's going to be very exciting to see. But can they sustain it? That is the question. I think this defense can. I think the defense can play well against Baker Mayfield. I think they could play well against Desmond Ritter. Can Derek Carr find a way to play good football? And it doesn't have to be today, right? I'm not asking Derek Carr to have 3 touchdown passes. But can Derek Carr play turnover-free football, play efficient football, take what the defense gives him without constantly going to the checks downs, without going through his reads, right? When you go through your reads, there's nothing there. You take the check down, cool with me. It's when you take the check down, you didn't even look for your reads. That's what's frustrating. Derek didn't do that today. Derek was scanning the field pretty well. You'd imagine you'll have Olave back soon. I think the Saints have put themselves in a good spot, and now they got to earn people's trust, because you expect them to beat the Panthers. You expect them to beat the Giants. Now you got to go out there and actually earn it, and we will see if they will. But I think it's going to be fascinating. Like I said, I think the Saints have put themselves in a good spot, because now it's all on them. They can take care of business. They control their own destiny. They got to go out there and do it. Now, before I get into any comments that you guys have to say about today's performance, the Saints, how they're playing, I want to get a quick word from one of our sponsors, DraftKings Sportsbook.
DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers an exclusive offer just for NBA fans. This week, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Plus, score an NBA League Pass subscription on us for the rest of the season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5. Plus, score an NBA League Pass subscription on us. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms.
Once again, thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being part of the program. We greatly appreciate it. So going to get any comments that you guys have on the show, and we'll go from there. Going to start off from a super chat from Carl Markey Marks. Thank you for the support. He says, not sure what's worse now, winning or losing. Look, I think there's certain ways to look at it, right? I think that for the Saints, they're in a weird spot. I think that the coaching staff, my opinion of them hasn't changed. I don't think Dennis Allen's a very good head coach. I don't think Pete Carmichael's a very good play caller. And honestly, I kind of wonder if Ronald Curry had a little bit more of an imprint on today's game plan than he has in weeks past. A lot more play action, a lot more fluidity to the way that they played, a lot of balance. Sometimes Pete just goes away from things. So I wonder if that's the case. And if that is, that's a good sign for the Saints if Ronald Curry played a big role in today's game plan. I can't confirm that. It just felt that way. But in terms of what's worse now, winning or losing, look, I am under the belief that even if the Saints finish, 7-10, 8-9, that Mickey Loomis will probably keep Dennis Allen, because that's just what he wants to do right now. And I guess, and if that is the case, you kind of say, all right, you might as well just take the winning. Now, if you want a better draft pick, regardless of whether or not DA's here, then I get it. And the way I see it is this. I'm not going to judge someone if they believe the best thing for the Saints to lose football games right now. And I'm also not going to judge someone if they're having a good time watching the Saints and going, man, I don't care if it's ugly, just get in the playoffs and hope to God you can do what maybe Seattle did back in 2010, where you make the playoffs, maybe didn't have great merit to get in there, but you won the division, you had a home playoff game, and you upset someone. And maybe that is what happened. So I think it go either way. I won't blame anyone for how they want to feel. I know there's some people that want to and say your opinion's wrong, mine's right, whatever. I think the Saints are in an interesting spot, and I cannot blame anyone for if a win like today is like, damn it, now Dennis Allen gets more leeway, or if a win today makes you feel like, man, we might make the playoffs for the first time in a couple of years. And obviously, it's fun to watch playoff football. You can't deny that, regardless of who's the coach, regardless of who's the quarterback. Playoff football is playoff football, and playoff football in the dome, that would be pretty fun. And the truth of the matter is, not only have the Saints put themselves in position to win the division, they're actually technically in the wild card race. So they might end up be playing playoff football regardless of if it's wild card or division. We'll see what happens. Going to keep it going here. and go with Alex's comment here. He says, credit to Carr. He played really well today. Probably his best game as a Saint. Just do it all the time, and we're set. Wouldn't you love that? If he did that all the time, if he did that consistently, 2 out of 3 games, 2 out of 4 games, I would take that at this point. Then the Saints wouldn't feel so bad about that contract. But I agree. Derek Carr played really well today. Just a efficient, I would maybe say flawless performance from him. Like that was the best he's played all year. And it's without his wide receiver 1. It's without his right tackle. Really impressive stuff. Margaret says, about time the Saints got their shit together. That was a good all-around game. I agree. Alex says, Damari was on one today. Thought he and the entire defense did a great job of containing Saquon. They did. Did a really good job of making them one-dimensional. And, I said it on the preview show. If you want to beat the Giants and make sure you kind of overwhelm them, take out the run game if you can and put it all on DeVito's shoulders as a passer. Because DeVito's going to make some plays with his legs. He's a good runner. But if you put it all on his shoulders as a passer, you will see those flaws. You'll be like, okay, that is why he's undrafted. That is why we need to see more before we crown him as some, underdog story that's going to take over the league. So the Saints did just that. They took Saquon out, made life much easier for the rest of the team. The misuse of players this season has been insane. No reason Bond should have been playing coverage all this time, and no reason Jimmy should have been filling up the Gatorade container all season long. Yeah, I agree with both. I mean, Bond has proven the past couple of weeks that he gives a little bit extra juice to this pass rush. And I think the Saints have learned that now. And hopefully this opens up their eyes saying, man, we can't keep going for those bigger defensive ends that don't offer much. So we shall see what happens. But I think Bond's giving them a little extra. As for Jimmy Graham, I've said it the last couple of weeks, it is the most bittersweet thing. It's sweet to see him get in the end zone because it's Jimmy freaking Graham and you love seeing him make plays. And on the other hand, you're going, would the red zone offense have looked a little bit better had Jimmy Graham played earlier this year? Because remember, from October 20th to December 2nd, he was inactive for no reason. So I think the coaching staff just messed that one up. Thankfully, they've been playing him now, and all he does is score touchdowns. Easy Zero says, not much you can say about this game, to be honest. Did what they had to do. Absolutely. I actually would say they played much better than I thought. I predicted the Saints to win 20-17. Clearly, it was not that close. The Saints won by a really big margin, and it felt more than an 18-point game. Joe says, now that was as close to a complete football game as I've seen all year. Defense is just being mean to everyone. It was a nasty performance. Nasty performance from the defense. A+, whatever you want to say. That's what they deserve. Only thing is the O-line was still cheeks at times, but Carr was good. Defense was great, and I think it's a good thing they play Thursday. This is what I'll say about the Thursday game. This is what I will say. The Thursday game, win or lose, is good for the Saints because they're going to have extra prep for that Bucs game. And that extra prep might be the difference between winning and losing the division. And I'm being dead serious. Like, that's the truth. So we'll see what happens. But that's how I kind of feel about it. I really feel like that extra prep on that Thursday is going to pay dividends regardless of if they win that Rams game or not. Now, if they win that Rams game, they put themselves in position to make the playoffs regardless of if it's division or wild card. So that's where that game does come up huge. If they lose, though, extra prep, got 10 days off, and you get ready for that Bucs game and know it is a must win, because if you lose, then you're screwed. But if you win, you're in great shape. Hopefully Carr will continue his play over the last few weeks as well. No reason not to. Not much has changed with the offense. He's doing better with worse weapons. It's weird, right? It's weird. Last week, didn't play well. Fourth quarter, all right, played well towards the end, but didn't really care much. Today, he had every excuse in the book to play bad. No Olave. Obviously, still no Michael Thomas. No Ryan Ramczyk. And it does not matter. He went out there. He spread the ball, like I said, to 10 different receivers. Great performance. I thought Lynn made some nice plays in the passing game. A.T. Perry had a grown man catch at one point. It's great stuff. Great stuff from the Saints. Alex says, I want whatever Passanio had before the game. Really, the whole defensive line, they were relentless. They were. And I love that he was hitting this every time after sack. It's not a knock on DeVito. It's just like the DeVito hype's been a little out there, and guys hear it. And if you have a chance to kind of snuff that story out and you want to take it, go for it. And the Saints defense did just that. All World Trucker says Chris Baker and the Rams is a big problem for us. Plus the Falcons lost the worst team in the NFL, and we should have beat them. This is the way I see it. I think the Saints are going to split with the Falcons this year. So I think they win the end of the year. Because I think had Derek Carr not thrown that goddamn interception, the Saints beat the Falcons. That just changed the whole game. You can't erase it now. But you hope when you go face them, that isn't the case. The Bucs game was where it comes down to, and like I said, I expect them to lose to the Rams. That's just my opinion. I expect them to lose to the Rams, and then you gotta come out there and beat the Bucs if you want to make the playoffs. If not, you lose that game, then all bets are off, and all of a sudden we're talking about the coaching staff again and what's next for this team. But if you're trying to focus on the now and the playoffs, they got to go out there and they got to beat the Bucs. And the Rams game would be the cherry on top of things, in my opinion. Nicole says it's the Giants. The Saints love to bully teams worse than them, but tuck their tail and run when it comes to competent teams. That has definitely been the case for sure. Like, that has definitely been the case for sure. They're going to have one more shot at it. One more shot to prove that they can beat a quality opponent. That'll be next week against the Rams. Bucs, Falcons, they can win those games. Would that change your confidence level into the playoffs? Probably not. So the Rams game would be a little different, though. And the reason I say this is Dennis Allen does not sustain winning streaks. So if the Saints were to win their last 5 of the year and go into the playoffs 10-7, regardless of what I may have said about this team, regardless of what you may have said about this team, you probably would feel a little bit better about them than you did 5 weeks ago. Again, I don't expect them to win 5 games in a row, though. I want to make that very clear. I don't at all. I'm just saying that's the truth of the matter. Easy says we haven't bullied anyone this year besides the Pats. That's for sure. Max says, what's good, y'all? Best W of the year? Possibly. I still think the Colts win was better, but this was the most complete game outside of the Pats one. In terms of the best opponent they beat, I still go with the Colts. Colts have been killing it this year in terms of guys go down. Shane Steichen keeps it rolling. Trav504 says Panthers beat the Falcons. Yeah, what an ugly game, 9-7. Desmond Ridder with some costly interception late in the game for them. Just tough stuff. They still haven't sold me on winning out, though. There's still bad coaching decisions. I feel will cost us big. Things like not having Alvin on the field for an entire drive. Not having Alvin on the field for an entire drive. Stupidity. And I tweeted it when it happened. You lose people. You lose people in terms of trust, in terms of ever feeling like saying, man, you know, I'll feel good about this team and this and that when you don't have your best player on the field for the opening drive. Like, that is just stupidity. So obviously that's not encouraging. Dennis Allen's got to learn when to accept and decline penalties. I couldn't help but laugh. So Saquon catches the ball in the flats, right? He gains 6 yards, and that makes it 3rd and 11. It was 2nd and 18 on that play. Had the Saints just taken the penalty and pushed the Giants back, it would have been 2nd and 28. But instead, Dennis Allen thought, 3rd and long, 3rd and 11, we'll hold, and the Giants pick up the first down. It's stupid shit like this. He's got to be smarter, you know? He's got to. And I just don't know if he can. That's really the question. Jerry G says victory Sunday. Absolutely. It definitely is. Easy says Kamara not being in is smart, takes the load off and plays Thursday. Yeah, I don't mind that he wasn't in late in the game. You know, for gambling purposes, sure, I would have liked him to be in for a couple more, maybe gain like 5 more yards. But in terms of strategically, who cares? You're up. Let Jamal Williams get some burn. Jack says the Saints won and the Falcons lost. It's a very good day. Alex says, nice job from the O-line today, despite no ram check. Really neutralized Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon and did a good job in the run/screen game. Perfectly executed screen in the second half. Love to see that. Look, was Derek pressured sometimes? Yeah. Was it a shit show, though? No. And I think that counts for something. There were a couple plays where Derek had a good 4 seconds to throw. Max says, Falcons lost. We really are going to stumble into the playoffs like a drunk uncle trying to pick a fight with a bodybuilder because he played football back in the day. I did not see that analogy coming, but who knows? You know, I mean, that might very well be the case. But let's see, like, if they win out, they don't stumble their way into the playoffs. They earned it technically. And if they win their last 2, they technically also earn it. Stumbling would be like they get in at 8 and 9. That's stumbling in my opinion. Matthew says, fucking amazing game, but one thing I found crazy was that declined OPI on the Giants, making it a 3rd and 12 rather than making it 2nd and a mile, which of course they went on to convert. I agree. I just talked about it a second ago. It drove me nuts. Make it 2nd and 28, bro. Like 3rd and 11 is a tough down, but it's manageable. 2nd and 28, you look at the play sheet, you're like, yeah, coach, I don't got anything to call for this one. We're fucked. I just don't get Dennis Allen. Matthew says, don't have a problem with how the running backs were finding holes, but was the lack of Taysom usage due to his injury management? I'm not sure. But you know what? Maybe that's a good thing today. Like, don't have to sometimes when the Saints win and it's all on Taysom's shoulders, it's like, do you got anything else besides that? Like, they can always go back to Taysom when they need to. So I'm okay with that. Max says, yeah, if we could get this version of this team all year, that would have been great. I agree. New Daylight Presents says, gutted. We are getting DA for another season. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I think that they were going to keep DA regardless after they beat the Panthers, and Mickey Loomis said, and I quote, you learn it's not about what you do as much as it is who you're doing it with. And that made me say, I like the people in the building too much to offend anyone and make changes. That's the way I saw it. But again, look at the Saints go 10-7, they go 9-8, they make the playoffs. They're not going to fire anyone anyway. We know that. They would have to probably lose the last 2 of the year for them to consider it. That's the truth of the matter. And we'll see. It's all going to play out. And I'm trying my best to not every weekend talk about whether or not these guys are going to get fired, because my opinion hasn't changed. I think Dennis Allen's a bad head coach. Beating the Panthers doesn't change it. Beating the Giants doesn't change it. There's nothing he can do for me to feel like he is a good head coach, right? He'd have to win 23 more to be 500 straight. And that's just my opinion. But I'm not going to waste my breath every weekend complaining that, hey, like they got to get him fired, this and that, because I'm going to sound like a broken record, you know? Matthew says, I think Granderson's best trait is how he doesn't give up on plays. Every damn game, he's hawking down dudes from behind. Love to see it. I would say the motor is definitely there. There's no doubt about it. Alex says, really like what we've seen from Bowden and Isaac Yedem. Didn't light up the stat sheet, but they played well. I agree. They've stepped up. And sometimes you need that little next man mentality. Isaac's been stepping up all season long, and now Lynn's been kind of giving them a little bit of a added element to that passing attack. Matthew says, I want to see this against teams with winning records. I agree, but we know that hasn't been the case. Golden opportunity Thursday, though. Golden opportunity. You play the Rams. Rams are playing right now. They got technically 3 less hours to prepare. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things. We shall see. Max says, what a terrible call that was on Alontae Taylor. Is that the worst call of the season? Honest to God, is that the worst call of the season? Wasn't dirty. Looked like a routine tackle. And it got flagged. That to me, I think was the worst call of the year. The roughness call on Taylor on 3rd and 22 was bullshit. I agree, Joe. Wesley says, look, that game was kind of boring, but who dat? Zach Paul looked really good rushing the passer. I thought the first half was boring. I thought the second half was a little entertaining to some degree. Last week's game was one of the worst games I've seen in my life. One of the worst games I've seen in my life. This week, tolerable. Alex says, Juwan and Jimmy scoring touchdowns in the same game. Dreamed about this in the preseason. Thought Juwan looked a little better today. Still kind of shocked that it hasn't been the year that many of us hoped. I thought Juwan would take that next step this year. Has not been the case. It is what it is, though. I mean, we just got to hope that they could sustain from this and Juwan could keep it going. He's played a little bit better the last couple of weeks, but a little surprised that it's been that case. Got a super chat from Ed. Thank you for the support. He says, DeMario Davis made Saquon disappear. Defense balled out. Offense played very well. Actually can't complain. I agree. Like, the tone was set by DeMario because on the first drive alone made 2 huge plays. And I think for taking Saquon out after Saquon, we've talked about, he may not be consistent, right? It might not be 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, but it might be 2 yards, 2 yards, 30, like a big run. Didn't have that at all. No impact in the passing game. No impact in the run game. DeMario was just dominant today, man. DeMario is a beast. There's no doubt about it. And I agree. There's really not a lot to complain about today. I'll complain about the bad call from the officials. I'll complain about Dennis Allen not knowing when to accept and decline a penalty. And I'll complain about, all right, offensively, 7 points in the first half isn't going to cut it. Second half, offense was flawless. First half and second half, defense was flawless. Really tough to complain. Blake Grupe didn't miss today, so that's good. And Lou Hedley had his best punt of the season. If there was reason to complain, you guys know me. You know I complain. Sometimes too much. So I would have complained. There just isn't a lot to complain about today. That's just the truth of the matter. Max says, has there been any news on Lattimore coming back? Nothing good. From what I've heard, it doesn't seem like he's coming back this regular season. Maybe that changes. But for now, not much. John says the Saints usually shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to penalties, but damn, that Alontae Taylor call was disgustingly egregious. I agree. Forgive says, just got to hope we don't continue with 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I hope so, man. I think that's been the most frustrating part about this team, because once you get a little bit of hope, they go out there and just kill you with it. And I'm tired of that. I'd like to see them go on a win streak. I'd like to see them beat some quality opponents. They haven't done it yet, but again, there's no better time than now to try and sustain some type of momentum. John said, Lou Hedley had a good game. Makes me happy. Blake Gilligan was such an asset. Lou is just inconsistent. Yeah, like I said, Lou had his best punt of the season today. So that obviously was great to see. Wesley says, I had Bijan on my fantasy team, and all I want to say is Arthur Smith should be arrested, and I cannot believe the Saints got beat by the Falcons. You are probably not the only one that is probably fuming about Arthur Smith. Probably not. Is this DeWright? I don't know. If I said it wrong, just correct me. Zach Bond was truly disruptive. I agree. Max says it's wild that Zach Bond could be good when they use him the way he was used in college. Would you look at that? Shocker. Put him in a good position to succeed, and he does just that. What do we got here? New Daylight presents this. If we play like that, we can beat the Rams. I agree. Got to, though. I don't know if they can play that level of football back-to-back weeks. I'd love to see it, though. Horace says the Saints still will not win these last 3 games, and I don't know how you think they will. I don't think they win Thursday. I can't say that enough. The Bucks game feels like a toss-up to me, so we'll see what happens there. And then the Falcons game, I think they will beat the Falcons. I want people to remember, the Saints aren't a good football team. I get that. The Falcons are also not a good football team. And now people will say, well, Chris, the Falcons beat the Saints the first time. I get that. Usually when bad football teams play each other, you're probably going to split them. And that's what I expect to happen. As for the Bucks game, we'll see. The Saints will have to actually play well because the Bucks are really, really starting to play good football. And Baker, you talk about flawless. He was flawless today in Lambeau. So it'll be interesting. Do I expect the Saints to win their last 3? Absolutely not. Can they win 2 out of the 3, though? They technically can. And to say they can, I think that's a little crazy. Easy says, if you keep DA, then I don't care what happens. The whole offensive staff needs to go. Yeah, and I agree that I would imagine there will be changes there. Max says we're probably going to get DA again next year, most likely. Easy says Arthur Smith's going to get fired and the Falcons are going to get Jaden Daniels. Shaking my head. I hope not, but it's possible. I really hope not, though. So y'all saying that I should have watched this game? Yes. Yes, you should have. There was a game to watch over the last couple of weeks. It would have been this one. Nat says Saints back. We can make a run. We shall see. They got to earn it. They got to earn the trust. Lauren says that touchdown play to Johnson was absolutely beautiful. We need more of that, please. With a little. I agree. I thought that was a really good play. Derek Carr looking off a safety in this economy? I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. Nat says, I like it when they spread the ball around. I'm with you on that. The last thing you want is for them to get locked in on one guy. I think they're a better offense when they're kind of spreading the wealth, and that's what happened. Zeke says, NFC South title probably going to come down to Saints at Bucks in Week 17. DA is 0-3 versus Bulls. Isn't that nuts? 0-3 versus Todd Bowles. That's kind of crazy. Horace says, why y'all praise the Saints? Y'all act like they beat a team that only lost 2 games. Shaking my head. We will lose the next 3 games. I don't know. I don't think they're going to lose their next 3 games. Look, and I've been very negative this year. So much so that a lot of people were very, very mad at me on Twitter yesterday arguing. But if you can't be happy today, then I don't know when you will. I'm very out on Dennis Allen. I'm very out on Pete Carmichael. I think Derek Carr has been a huge disappointment this year. But the Saints played well today. Derek Carr played well today. The defense was great today. I can't really get mad because they actually look like a good football team today. And I don't think they'll sustain that, but I also don't think they're going to lose their last 3 games. Zeke says, if Derek Carr and the defense continues to play like this, then they'll win the division. All comes down to whether they can build off a good win, something they failed to do so far. I agree. And that's the truth of the matter. All World Trucker says Pelicans playing right now. Go catch it. I think that last time I checked, they were winning by double digits. I don't know you guys can correct me if that's the case, but last time they were. Max says, bro, I hate this limbo. Love a win, but want better draft picks. It's half the league's in that boat, though. If you look right now, half the league is floating in that range, Saints right now, unfortunately, are picking 19th at the draft started today, which doesn't that suck? But sometimes that's how it goes. Got a super chat from Cool Sports Poems. Thank you for the support. Says, good win, but I'm still not sold on DC and this coaching staff. What do you think about Frank Reich and Kirk Cousins? I agree about not being sold on Derek Carr and this coaching staff. I'm definitely not sold on the coaching staff. I don't think the coaching staff is any good. Derek Carr, I still think he's on the decline. Could a better coaching staff get more out of him? Maybe. I don't know if you seek a better coaching staff to fix a Derek Carr. He's in his 30s. Like, what's done is done. As for Frank Reich, I'm kind of out on Frank Reich. I used to be in on him, but get fired back-to-back years. Granted, both dysfunctional owners. It's a bad look. As for Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. And some people might say, Chris, what the fuck did you just say? I'll say it again. I think Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback. I think Kirk Cousins was playing at an MVP level before he tore his Achilles this year. And I think Kirk Cousins does a really good job of doing the most with what he's given. What I mean by that is last year the Vikings had a bottom tier defense with a bottom tier pass protecting offensive line, and they made the playoffs. Now, did they get bounced first round? Yes. Did Kirk Cousins not play that well in that first game? Yes. But I put other quarterbacks in that spot, bad pass protection, bad defense. They're not making the playoffs. I think Kirk is a really good quarterback. Now, where does he go? I have no idea where he ends up this offseason. I hope he's healthy, though. But I am a big fan of Kirk Cousins. As for Frank Reich, probably he's going to have to settle for an offensive coordinator job. I can't see him being a head coach again after what happened back-to-back years. But we shall see. You know, crazier things have happened. Easy says, MT and Lattimore should be back for the Bucs game. Peyton Turner and Kendrick Miller as well. I don't think Lattimore's going to come back this regular season. Michael Thomas, maybe. I know Nick's been saying Michael Thomas come back for the Falcons game. Lattimore, it's been just silent. So we'll see. Derek says, guess I'll be buying a Texans jersey. At least it's a team trying. If DA is going to be sticking around, it's hopeless. We are beating trash teams and calling it great. I don't think anyone's calling it great. I think the way the Saints played today, the Saints played like a really well-rounded team today. Does it mean they're a good team, though? Not necessarily. But they played well today. And that is the truth of the matter. And if we can't say that, then I think we're being a little unfair. And I'm an unfair person. I understand that. But that's just the way I see it. Gavin says Brazil looked awesome today. I agree. Roy says Derek didn't have Olave and MT. How do you guys consistently call trash when he's playing with 3 ribs and a fracture, yet these 2 wideouts don't show? I don't know why we're throwing, saying these 2 wideouts don't show as if it's their fault they're hurt. Injuries happen. So that's part of it. And I think it's okay to say Derek Carr's not been good this year while also saying Derek Carr played really well today. It's which I think is the way to go about it. That's how I think it is, Max says this is one of those 1 step forward, 2 steps back type of games, though. Be prepared for next week, y'all. I'm expecting a loss to the Rams, but we shall see. But I'm expecting a loss. Max says, watch we win all but one. We win all but one, the Bucs, and the Bucs win the division. Possibly. Jerry G says, thoughts on the BS call, Chris? I'm assuming you're talking about the Alate Taylor one. I can't stress enough. That's the worst call this NFL season. Worst call this NFL season. Textbook tackle. No one gets hurt on the play. No hit to the head. No helmet-to-helmet collision. It's just football. And if those hits are taken out of the game, we are fucked. We are so screwed. You might as well put flags on them. If that's what we're calling, if that's unnecessary roughness, you might as well put flags on these guys. Because this ain't it. If that's what we're calling as unnecessary roughness, we got problems. And I don't even want an apology if I'm Alante Taylor from the league. Just don't call it again. And that spotted the Giants 3 points, by the way. Max says, most of the league ain't accustomed to winning like we are. I think that's true, but who knows? This is the weirdest year, man. Like, has anyone looked great from start to finish? I know the Niners have had really, really good stretches. Cowboys have had good stretches. Eagles have had good stretches. Ravens have had good stretches. It's a weird year. Michael says they are stat padding Carr while leaving their star running back on the bench most of the game. Last week they did. This week they did not, in my opinion. I don't think they stat padded Carr this week. And leaving Kamara on the bench towards the end of the game is okay because you have a Thursday night game coming up. You can let Jamal take some of those hits in the middle. I had no problem with it. Last week, though, I said Carr stat pad, and anyone who says otherwise, they're not seeing it. This week, though, I don't think so because they could have thrown it more towards the end if they wanted to, and they did not. Max says, I think towards the end, there was a play where it looked like DC was going to pitch to Kamara, but instead changed his hands to pass it. Looked weird. Looked like he had his passing yards in mind and caused hesitation, and the defense caught up with it to stop AK from going anywhere. I'll have to look back at that, but I didn't see it that way, but I'll go look back and see if that's how it looked. Max says, anyone else think DeVito was flopping when he got hit on his slide? No. Dude got his bell rung. He absolutely got his bell rung. I don't think he was flopping at all. I also actually don't really think it was a dirty hit either, because the way it played out, it was kind of a late slide, and Isaac Yiadom already launched himself, and that's where you end up with. So it was a tough play. I'm glad that he's okay. It doesn't seem, I mean, if he had a concussion, they probably would have ruled him out, and they have a very serviceable backup in Tyrod Taylor. But, so far, like, to me, it didn't look like a flop. It just looked like a hard hit, and it was unfortunate, but thankfully he's all right. But, yeah, overall, guys, Saints defense balled the hell out. Derek Carr did his thing today for once in a blue moon, which is great to see. Can they sustain it? We shall see. But I'll be back Monday morning, guys, to talk about it. 8 p.m. Central. I'm saying Monday morning and then 8 p.m. I'm losing my mind. 8 a.m. Central, Boo Crew Media. So make sure you guys subscribe, and we'll talk about it more. We'll talk about the division. We can talk about the wild card race. More good stuff to come. But the Saints win. Finally look good doing it. Not much to complain about. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be back once again on Monday with another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation. Have a great Sunday night, everyone.